Hey, and welcome to another episode of Mayhem and Madness. So it is, I don't know, Monday. Of course it's Monday. Monday the 10th of November. I don't know why I can't do this today. It's my birthday on Friday, so maybe I'm way ahead of myself, getting in the birthday groove. Okay, so we have a couple of things, well, 4 things as usual to go through today. We are going to be muting out the madness, talking about Israeli's House of Cards, which is crumbling, MI6 and CIA Strike Again. So that kind of popped up in my timelines yesterday, and then about an hour and a half ago, because I was only going to kind of talk about 2 things, because I was like, I kind of want an early night. So basically I've had to shuffle everything around, and normally I'm off on a Tuesday. I say off, I'm not. It always looks like I've got like this shadow, just like I've got been smacked in the face. I haven't, it's a shadow. It's a bit off-putting, isn't it? Anyway, I'm not off tomorrow, so I've had to move everything around. But anyway, so that's why I wanted an early night, and I was only going to go through 2 things. But as I was kind of just chilling on social media, waiting for the dogs to finish their food, up popped something else. I was like, oh shit, I probably do need to cover this. So we still have 3 things. We then have young Bob, who was arrested for an interview. And I know this did happen on the 6th of November, but I just didn't see it till today. And also the 6th was last Thursday, so it's not like I'm too far behind. I only see you on a Monday. Then we're going to kind of go into the global grief ritual, 107 years on. So perhaps you've twigged what I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to give you some things that can help you navigate the after effects, and just keep yourself emotionally sane and healthy. So first up, we're going to dive into Israel. Oh my gosh, let me check that my microphone's on. Yes, it is. Been there before multiple times. Okay, so Israel's House of Cards is crumbling. So I do have a video to play, and I'm not quite sure how well it's going to work, because sorry, not quite sure how well it's going to work, because it's me. Right, so let's give it a go. Little Henry's up very late this evening. I actually have videos for all of these. I'm not going to show you the entire videos for all of these though, because like some of them are like 15 minutes long, so that would be crazy. Oh, there we go. I don't need to see my name twice.
I want to read to you a message that the Hamas released yesterday. The speaker of the Hamas: we are willing to reveal all the Zionists that cooperated with us on October 7 and helped us with this attack. We want in return 60 days of rest. The report of how many people from within government and command helped us to attack Israel, the land in Israel will shake like an earthquake. The biggest enemies of the Jewish nation is not enemies from outside, it's enemies from within. These Arab Arab who control everything in Israel, cooperate with the enemies, hating Judaism, hating the religion. If you follow Israeli news, you're not going to believe what's happening. The Attorney General of the Israeli army, an extreme lefty woman, she's in the highest rank. The next rank above her is the chief of command. being in charge of the entire army. What happened with this trader? She took the car, they were coming to arrest her. But the other attorney general, the national one, who was even worse than her, there's nobody she hates more than Hashem and the religious people, she on purpose did not sign the arrest to investigate her, to give her a few hours that she can hide the evidence. And she went to some beach in Israel and threw her cell phone into the water. Hours, and she faked that she committed suicide. She left her car with a note, and everybody was looking for a body everywhere, to give her enough time to hide everything she needed to hide, because in her phone there is information about all the lefty traders that cooperate with the enemies in Israel. They're all connected to each other, so they made already few arrests. What's going to happen in the next few days, you're going to see dozens of spies and enemies that are in the highest position of power in Israel that are helping the enemies to destroy us. Forget about that they fight the yeshivot and they torture all the Bachurei yeshivot. For years they do it. And of course, that's a part of what they hate. But literally cooperating with the enemies.
And that was posted yesterday in the evening. Maybe. I don't know. I saw it yesterday evening. So I don't know when it was initially posted. Anyway. There we go. Okay. So the woman who was talking about, for context, is the so she was IDF's top military prosecutor, deputy level in the justice food chain, Leora Toma Yerushalmi. She was the ex-chief military advocate general, so she's the one you probably saw it on the news, and I saw it on the news, and I was like, this is just a really weird story. I thought, like, this is a really weird thing, and then that video just sparked me thinking about it again. So she vanished on October 28th this year. So they found her purse, phone, keys, all ditched by Lake Kinneret, which is the Sea of Galilee, with a suicide note, right? Triggering a massive IDF police manhunt. Then they found the purse, staged, a whole press release. With regards to she's been, she's passed away, all of that kind of stuff happened. Then they found her, Tel Aviv, so they found her November the 2nd. So this video's got to be pretty recent, for they found her November the 2nd. And she was trying to obviously delete her phone's evidence before being seized. Now, she's been charged with leaking classified videos of IDF soldiers raping a Palestinian detainee at SDE Tierman in July 2024, using, it documents horses and pipes as tools. So that's pretty gross. Then, okay, so we have that whole thing going off. Let me just move my notes down so I can see the screen at the same time. There we go. Oh no, that's not helpful. Sorry. There we go. I just need to probably make it bigger as well, because I swear my eyes don't work like they used to. It's an age thing. No, my eyes are fine. It's just I have everything miniature. Well, I have like a gazillion windows on the screen. Then I need to come and read it. Okay, there we go. Now, so that kind of got my little grey cells tingling, as Poirot says, and obviously she's been charged with leaking the video of harming Palestinians, and I was like, but why why does Netanyahu care about that, right? Because that doesn't make sense, that's the thing that they're being charged with. I mean, obviously it goes against the whole, well, we do nothing wrong, we're really nice. And, I'm going to just reframe again. It's a war. They're both doing very disgusting things. And it's not just them who does that. The UN does the same thing. Our soldiers in the UK does the same sort of horrific stuff. So do the US soldiers. So people who live outside of the whole military childhood, I think, have this very rose-tinted view of their own military, and for some reason believe they're whiter than white. Militaries will attract a certain personality type, right? And personality is not fixed, it's fluid, right? So it's not like only one type of person will be, and you're that personality for life. That's not where I'm going with this, but actually one specific human, certain types of human nature are more likely to draw you into the military. There are some who are, 100% patriotic. They want to do what's best for the country, defending the country. And I would say that's where my dad fell into. My mum, I think she probably just wanted to escape Sheffield. She wanted to be a nurse. And, she had the opportunity. For me, when I was going to join up with the same sort of thing, I was like, oh, well, I want to go to university. They'll pay for it. I'll never have to pay it back, right? So that was, and because I'm military family, it's easier for you to get in. So that was my whole, I was patriotic, but that wasn't the reason. But you do get the patriotic people. You tend to get it tends to run in the family. You've seen somebody put their life on the line. You grow up with a sense of duty, and to be fair, that's probably why I'm being, I speak out is from that childhood sense of duty drilled into me. Anyway. Now, the other group, and so this is the same for police services as well. You have some who want to protect and, get the bad people off the street, and others who their sole focus is the power that comes from it, the power that they have over others, the opportunity to instill fear. Right. So there are people like that who get recruited. Also, there are many different programs in many different places in the world where if you are a criminal, you can get offered a place in the military if they're desperate, rather than serve your sentence. So bearing in mind the types of individuals who were specifically recruited into militaries, with the IDF, they have conscription, so everybody has to do 2 years, which is why when they were chanting death, death, death to the IDF, they weren't just chanting about the military, they were chanting about every single person in Israel, because like everybody is part of the IDF, right? So that's something that people don't talk about. But they are at war, and you get horrific people doing horrific things. They're also predominantly male. They will also be extremely desensitized to the horrors of, death, violence, destruction. And they when they are with their peer group, they are bolstered. Maybe there's lots of individuals who did things that they are horrified by what they did, but actually doing it there and then was easier than being the person who stood up and then has that thing done to them, right? So there's lots of different reasons why people go along with things as well. So we need to start recognizing, sorry, I'm just making sure he's not kamikaze. We have to recognize that the individuals who go into the military aren't always for the UK, king and country, right? They are aggressive. They like the power. They like that whole side of it. And they are going to thoroughly enjoy humiliating other individuals. And you get sick fucks, right? And they tend to know who the other sick fucks are. So it is quite common for people not to know that stuff like that. I mean, not in the BBC, right? Working at BBC, you know that shit's going on. Outside of the BBC, it is quite common for stuff to happen and even be like little gangs of people colluding and other people having genuinely no idea, because there is no way you're going to be invited in to witness horrors if people know that you're somebody who is stands for truth and justice, right? Because they're not complete idiots. I mean, they are idiots for doing that, but they're not, you know, completely and utterly retarded. So they're not going to invite people in. Sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes they may invite somebody in because they thought they're on the same wavelength. So there must have been some kind of inclination, i.e. that person was just I was about to say a coward, which I think is a little bit too harsh, but, you know, that person just doesn't have the confidence to stand up or walk away, right? And I think people, it should, you know, at the bare minimum, you don't stand by and pretend it's not happening. If you know it's happening, you should kind of stand up and stand against it. But in certain situations, your life is at risk. Like, I get that. So then you leave, and it just becomes tough shit. Like, how could I don't understand how people can take money from organizations which condone horrific things so that they can pay their mortgage. This is my entire confusion over the doctors and nurses over the Rona stuff, right? If you know this shit is killing people, how are you still working there and being paid to do it? Okay, so we've gone off track because that's what I do. Anyway, so back to Israel's house of cards crumbling. So we should be, excuse me, seeing lots of individuals getting hopefully not just disappeared, but getting rolled up. Now, it's also important to remember that when it comes to Hamas, which is obviously funded by Netanyahu, and, you know, they've had $1.5 billion has been funneled into Hamas and via Qatar since 2018 from Israel. So it's not small amounts of money that Israel pays Hamas to do the things, right? And so it's been going on since, well, at least 2018, right? That's 1.5 billion since 2018 through Qatar. And so Hamas will have got the receipts, right? They've got the receipts of who's been funding this genocidal campaign, who's been funding the building of the tunnels, who orchestrated October the 7th. And we've heard about, you know, the stand down order. So all of that's already got, you know, it's covered in Israel. I mean, so I'm not going to go so far as they completely orchestrated the entire thing, because I don't think that's not necessarily how false flags happen. They usually hear the chatter on the intelligence grapevines and let it happen. So that's plausible deniability. So there will be evidence that they knew about it and they just didn't act, right? That's the same thing that happened at Pearl Harbor. It wasn't the Americans didn't organize it, but they were told it was happening in like a day before and did nothing. They let it happen in order to get the outcome that they need, right? So that tends to be what happens with false flags. I mean, unless you're in the UK and they just fucking manufacture the entire thing like on 7/7, right? But I would hazard a guess the Ruka Bender thing, Ruka, whatever it's called, that would have just been they knew he was going to do something because he was repeatedly reported, with the school repeatedly reported him via the prevent strategy. So all of those individuals, we've had the recent there was the train attack, and this guy the day before stabbed somebody, and had already we've got people who are raping people because they were accidentally released out of prison. So all of these things, they know it's going to happen, and they let it happen, or they're orchestrating it by letting them out of prison, right? You can't have 4 really fucking bad offenders accidentally being left out of prison, because they will be in maximum security prisons. They're not in open prisons. Anyway, so back to Israel's House of Cards, which is crumbling. So we should see technically this shit start to fall down. And if we go back to the Q posts, and Q is not a person. Let's just remember Q is spyware. It's like Pegasus spyware. It's just a backdoor to see what's going on. So when it kind of says we have it all, it's because they've literally been playing spy games and watching what's going on in real times, right? So it's not there might be people joining together to collect all this information, but it's not a person. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it is spyware like Pegasus. So one of the and the early 100% worth reading, the early 100. So we do have the whole Israel for last, right? So we also had Trump state. So it begins sometime last week. So it begins, to put it into context, is what was said in Lord of the Rings, the third one, just before like the big battle. So kind of November the 5th, things really started rolling. And we'll talk about the BBC when we talk about Syria, right? So things have really started to roll. Heads have started to roll. Not beheadings, because I don't condone murder, state sanctioned or otherwise. I'm just going to throw that in there again, because I'm absolutely going to be taken out of context every single fucking time. So why did it matter that she released the Palestinians being raped, right? It's just to stir the pot. That's it. It's to keep pushing the occupied narrative, to keep pushing that Israel's the aggressor, Israel's the disgusting ones. Why does that work in Netanyahu's favor? Because then it bolsters Palestine to do the things they need to do, and it enables Netanyahu to just obliterate them. Now, we did do a show on, was it last week, what I was talking about? No, I think I was talking about Palestine the other day. So we did talk about the fact that, oh no, it was last week. Ex-Palestinian Muslims will stand there and tell you Muslim doesn't need a state. But sorry, Palestine doesn't need a state because they are all terrorists. I don't know. I've not been there. However, that still doesn't justify mass slaughtering of innocents, right? Adults are different to children, and you can get radicalized children. Look at all of our kids in the UK who genuinely believe that the world is going to end and are so terrified by climate change, thanks Greta, that they are having to take medication that does nothing, right? It just causes them more harm, but is sold as like the best thing in the world in order to function because of the threat of climate change, right? So the children have been completely brainwashed, and depending on their age, you can undo that. The adults will be a different story. will be a different story, because it comes down to need. Do they want to? Do they want to change? And they probably won't. They won't want to change, so they won't. Therefore, as Yuri Bemenov would say, you know, who's no longer with us, I don't believe, you either round them up and put them in camps, or you end them all. And I think probably putting them in camps will end in the same way as putting them all in prison, is you just end up with completely more radicalized individuals. Like, I think there needs to be a proper conversation around what we do with radicalized individuals, because we need to be humane, because you can't start a humane society and you can't rally against the atrocities by then committing your own atrocity. Like, the hypocrisy in the supposedly awake community beggars belief, right? It's wrong for us to be treated like slaves and criminals because of our beliefs, but it's okay to do it to them because their beliefs are different, right? People really, like that show where I said you all need to stop being a fucking hypocrite. Like, we really do collectively need to stop being hypocritical. What do you want to see in society? And we have to start applying that to the people we don't particularly like or agree with, because if you can't apply it to them, then you don't deserve it yourself at all. So, Israel for last. So it begins 5th of November, which I don't understand how Guy Fawkes blowing up, attempting to blow up Parliament, became the whole. It was you talk about fucking cultural appropriation, right? Stealing fucking Guy Fawkes and turning him into a worldwide. I don't mind so much because he was a Catholic. Don't forget, he was a Catholic. So radical. He was a radical. And obviously we do the bonfires every single year to stop us thinking about doing anything similar, because that will happen to us. So that's the psyop. That's the 400-year psyop of bonfire night, which people don't get. Anyway, so on to the next bit. MI6 and CIA Strike Again. So I've got another video for you, but here we go. So we're going to be talking about Syria. Right, so Syria, that's what the video links to, was not a revolution. We know this. We did this when it happened. It was a regime change. So we swapped out Assad for the groom jihadi, and this was purposeful to starve Russia. And obviously, at the same time, Russia's fighting Ukraine. We saw color revolutions we've got one going on in the UK, right? So we saw fucking coup after coup after coup in our own country, and nobody could do anything about it. Anyway, okay, so let's watch this other video. Hold on. Oh. Let me just. I want it to stop. Oh no, I think I messed things up when I. Oopsie. I don't know how to. Let's just do it like this, because I don't know how to. I don't know what's going on. Right.
Start. starting in
Shh. Wait. Gosh, let me write it down. I need to turn this one up for you. By the looks of things. Okay. There we go.
Starting in 2023, a British non-government organization which specializes in conflict resolution invited me to help them bring this guy out of the terrorist world and into regular politics. And at first, I have to tell you, I was very leery of going. I sort of had images of me in an orange jumpsuit with a knife to my throat. But after talking to several people who had gone in, and one of whom had met him, I decided to take the chance. And so the first time I met him, this guy's name is Nom de Guerre, was Abdelkader Jolani, but his actual name is Ahmed Shara, which he only revealed to the world after he captured Damascus in the Blitzkrieg of December 2024, about 5 months ago. First time I met him, I sat down next to him, and I'm literally as close as I am to Roy, and I said, this is all in Arabic, I said, never in a million years could I imagine that I would be sitting next to you, long beard, in fatigues. And he looked at me, speaks very softly, and he said, Wallah ana, me neither. And we went on, and actually I had a pretty civil conversation. I share this because he said something which really piqued my interest. He never apologized for the terrorist attacks in Iraq or in Syria, although there were many fewer in Syria. Never apologized. But he also said, you know, now I am governing an opposition-held area of northwest Syria, and I am learning that the tactics and the principles that I was following in Iraq do not apply when you actually have to govern 4 million people. And they had 2 million residents of that area of Syria, and then another 2 million refugees who had come there from other parts of Syria. So they had a population of 4 million. He said, I am learning that to govern, you have to make compromises. I was very struck by that. So that was in March 2023, just over 2 years ago. We went back a second time in September.
So we have a British NGO, aka MI6 backed fucking bullshit CIA organization, helping overthrow Syria. Then we have the US, ex-US ambassador Robert Ford, who was Obama's Syria point man, openly admitting that they basically took a very, very horrific individual, gave him a shave, and put him in front of the camera, and now he's in charge, right? That's what's happened. So Abu Muhammad al-Julani is now being known as Ahmed al-Sharaa because that's his real name. So he took on a personality to be this jihadi, and now he's reverted back to his really nice, happy self, and he's quite happy to govern. He knows that he probably shouldn't be, you know, beheading people, executing people. Like, he's literally was known as the al-Nusra and ISIS executioner, right? Not a nice guy. Not like somebody you'd want to kind of meet down a dark alley, especially like I wouldn't want to meet down a dark alley, because he follows, you know, the Islamic religion, which believes white. I mean, I'm probably a bit too old now, so let's be to be fair. So believes that white women deserve it, gagging for it, are literally designed to be raped, abused, tortured, and that's it, right? And that's a fundamental belief, because Muhammad is the word of God, right? What he says, what's in the Quran, that's what we do, No ifs, no buts. That's the rules. So at no point, and if you read anything about radicalization, so let's call them radicals, right? Radicalization, regardless on the side, regardless of what people are radicalized by, whether that is religion or climate or anything like that, they struggle to undo ideology, right? If somebody has a fundamental belief that's the way things are, and they are not open to changing those beliefs, there is nothing you can do. Like, nothing. You can show people the facts, and it doesn't mean anything. Like, this is why all those people who were all in on the Rona are still all in on the Rona, even though they 100% probably factually in their subconscious know that it was bullshit. They will just double down, right? So this video dropped yesterday. It's so disgusting that this is still happening, and so blatantly, and yet, I mean, people wonder how we ended up in a place like how America have ended up with a fucking communist in charge of New York, how we've got Muslim extremists in our government, running the Home Office, running London, running all of these institutions. But I don't, so like, we shouldn't be surprised that we are doing the exact same thing and propping those individuals up in other countries, right? But the key is, this was a strategic move by CIA, MI6 to cause harm to Russia, right? And so when we are, with the whole Ukraine-Russia things going on and on and on and on, we have to remember, like, how pissed off Russia is probably, I mean, absolutely pissed off, right? So there was a legit election where they chose to be part of, it was a democratic election in 2014 where I can't remember the name, because the beginning with a C. They chose to be part of Russia. They didn't annex them. Crimea. They didn't annex them. They like 97% of people said, I want to be Russian. And yes, we have fake elections. That's what happened in Ukraine, right? They had a fake election where they elected the dodgy fucker. But Russia didn't do anything wrong. It's people who had decided they wanted to be part of Russia, not part of Ukraine, were being attacked and abused, and they fucking locked them in a hotel and set them on fire, right? Not nice things were happening. And so the people who had decided that they were Russian begged the person who's looking after Russians to defend them. So Russia went in to defend its people, right? And every single fucking nation has the right to do that. Every nation has the right to do that. So while Russia's trying to sort this shit out, we have Trump take back the White House. Then a month later, they have a second attack on Russia. That's what it is. It's not about Syria. I mean, it's about destroying us who are saying no, but it's also about isolating and inflicting damage on a nation which, if actually aligned with America and there was good relations, like, that's really powerful. for the safety and the peace in the world, right? It really is. Because at the moment, all the fucking regime changes, all the funneling money into places like Ukraine and ISIS and Nazis and all of that shit is because because America wants to own Russia, right? America wants to be the global dominant power, and because they've got their eyes on the fucking Russian prize, is they took their eyes off all the fucking organizations they were funding to destabilize and cause conflict and block Russia, right? So that has been the CIA's sole job since the Cold War, and they're still fucking doing it. They're still embedded in doing things to cause harm to Russia so that America becomes dominant. This is the entire thing, always gets fucking turned around. It's like the Crown's doing it, right? I mean, it's the global cabal, right? It is the global cabal. They are using the individuals who are funneling the money, who are paying the money, are the American people and British taxpayers. Like, our money is funding the terrorists who are then attacking us. I don't understand why people aren't more enraged by all of this. Like, at all. I just don't understand it. So the UNSC, right? This is how kind of intertwined this whole thing is. Lifted their sanctions on Ahmed al-Sharaa on the 6th of November, right? The day after Trump was elected. Literally the next day. Why? Because Trump would have had good relations with Russia, because he wants peace, right? Trump wants peace. And so they had to, and Trump was talking about stopping Ukraine, telling everybody stop. And so they had to counter that by green lighting Syria and fucking throwing Putin a curveball. And how can he focus on stopping Ukraine when he's now dealing with this other entire shitstorm on a, like, really close to another fucking border? So, and this is like their playbook. So in 2012, 2017, CIA, MI6 together, right, ran something called Timber Sycamore, which is 1 billion were given to rebels, including al-Nusra precursors, despite the ISIS ties, right? So while our relatives and people we love and care about, and us as taxpayers, right, well, we are being told that we are fighting against terrorism, right? All those people who died abroad fighting against terrorism, and it's your own government that is funding those terrorists to blow up your children, to blow up your dad, to blow up your mum or your sister, your cousin or your uncles, right? For money. This is the only reason they do it. They do it for money and power. So the military industrial complex are the ones who fund and will keep funding. I mean, it's the same as what was going on in the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Like, funded both sides. What happened in Nazi Germany? Funded both sides. Right? Because they just do not care. They do not care. And everybody gets distracted by bullshit, forgetting their fundamental goal is to wipe us all out in any means necessary. And anybody standing against that will be taken out. They were also funneling things via Turkey and Jordan, and we just gave £8 billion worth of fucking aeroplanes and military planes or whatever it was to Turkey, right? Do we give them nuclear bombers or something, right? But that's like blatantly telling Russia that we are at war with Russia, and we are running a proxy war through loads of other countries, and at some point they will hit the nuke button. Not Russia. Russia won't do it. I don't believe Russia will do it. I mean, our own government will do it and blame Russia. But there is so much evidence that we are already in World War III, and it just infuriates me when I see people who are it's birthday week, so I'm going to be talking to family members. I can't. So it was a big win for the baddies toppling Syria. Less capacity for Russian to launch black ops from Donbass, freed up the NATO proxies. So we've got the CIA trained Ukrainian intelligence sharing, real-time Syrian signet. Yes, Assad's network funneled billions through Russia, but how much money have we been funneling into Ukraine? Right, billions. So there was 100 million that went into Russia, and there's been billions upon billions upon billions that have gone into Ukraine from us and America and Europe. They just like, sometimes you see stuff and you think, oh, it's looking good. Like, I can see winning, and then I'm just like, for fuck's sake. We have to remember that there will be hundreds of thousands of individuals, if not I would say millions and millions of people who are on the wrong side of this. And a lot of them have the very sick personalities that we mentioned at the beginning, talking about the different types of criminals, right, who go into the military. So, recent events, right? So that was last year. That was over 12 months ago. Fast forward. Well, we'll just rewind a little bit to 2022. So I don't know whether you caught John Bolton on CNN saying he's ex-NSA, right? When they were kind of saying that Trump orchestrated the J6 coup, sorry. And he literally states, as somebody who's helped plan coup d'etats, Trump didn't have the sophisticated enough plan, right? So he literally says on live TV, Trump didn't do that. No way Trump did that. I know, because I've done it a lot, right? He has toppled regimes in Venezuela for oil, Bolivia. He brags about green lighting operations in Iran, Ukraine, whispering to Assad's foes pre-2011. So toppling the Syrian regime is a long-standing thing that they've been trying to do, right? And it just so happened while Russia was paying attention to fucking Ukraine and everybody was paying attention to Ukraine, they could take Syria by the back door. And let's not forget the Middle East before the rise of Islam was Christian, and there was this huge Christian secret bits of information that they want to get their hands on. And before Christianity, there was Judaism and other religions that were knocking around that have lots of different secrets and mystical things that they want to get their hands on, right? So it's easy to do that in war, because nobody's paying attention to the people who are stealing stuff. Or they just destroyed it. Like, they destroyed loads of it. Like they did. They completely, way back when, destroyed Alexandria and the library at Alexandria. So we 100% saw that it's still going on, right? It's still going on. We saw a coup in our country, with the takedown of Liz Truss to Rishi Sunak. I mean, obviously they got rid of Bozo, but I think they got rid of Bozo because he had fulfilled his usefulness. I'm live, big smoke it. He got rid of his usefulness, and everybody who kind of saw him pre going to Chequers and post Chequers, he looks like a completely different person. So that was like Bozo 5.0 or whoever it was that came out. But so obviously the people decided they wanted Liz Truss, couldn't have her because she was about to make some changes. I mean, she's still bad, right? But so we had to have Rishi Sunak. We had to have Rishi start the decline so that we would get Labour. So we had a coup in this country, and now we're undergoing another one, right? With the Islamic State overtaking the main city, the second city, and lots of different areas around the country. So it's surprising that they're still doing it abroad if they've got the fucking balls to do it in the UK, and obviously tried to do it or did do it in the USA multiple times. And, the most recent was when Trump was not elected for 2020. And then we had the whole J6 coup, J6 bullshit event. Now, when it comes back to Bolton, we have to remember that in October this year, so these things are coming to bite them in the ass. October this year, a federal grand jury in Maryland dropped an 18-count espionage act bomb, 8 counts for transmitting national defense information, so top secret diary dumps via personal email and messaging to 2 unauthorized relatives. So over 1,000 pages of NSA notes on military or diplomatic operations to relatives. Just like dropping my sister, some classified docs, 10 for unlawful retention, so stashing classified documents at home, post White House, right? So remember, those are the things that they did to Trump, right? Even though Trump was the president, and he declassified them by saying they're declassified. That's literally what he can do in his role as president, is declassify anything. And he kind of declassified a lot of information live on telly every time he was being interviewed, and nobody was catching on that he was doing that. But obviously, nothing's ever happening. Anyway, so he surrounded October the 17th, pleaded not guilty. Obviously, they're spinning it like Trump is just politically arresting people because it came on the back of Comey and Clapper and Brennan. Not that the left has been fucking using the courts to shut everybody down, indict Trump multiple times. Like, none of that happened. We are misremembering all of that stuff. Trump's the one who's using the courts to go after his political opposites. I don't know what you want to call it. So he can get up to 10 years per count. So the trial's 2026. Which is interesting, right? So next year, and I say interesting because I believe that's the year that they are going to proper pop off what's going on in the UK. So we're seeing it all kind of build up, right? So distraction. Now, we've had, and I'll kind of show how this flips into Syria in a second. If for anybody who's been, living in a closet, we've had the BBC finally getting called out for the shit they pulled on splicing Trump's speech together. So for anyone who was, knocking around with me back in 2021, this is one of the strikes that I got on my channels. I streamed the Trump rally live. Like, we did it like a live watch party. And we were all chatting, and I wasn't presenting, I wasn't kind of on camera. We just like kind of had Trump rolling, and we were all chatting in the comments, having a great time, watched all the like great stuff. And as soon as that ended, like, so even before Trump started speaking, right, because he was an hour late, and they were broadcasting the attack on the Capitol, which happened because Trump had told him to do it in his speech, right? Bearing in mind, he hadn't done his speech yet, right? The timestamps didn't match up. And I, among anybody, lots of other people were saying straight away that can't be true, because the time, like, he's literally just stopped speaking. Like, they've only just started marching, and it takes like there was like a 40-minute walk or something. There was no way that he could literally finish talking and be at the Capitol kicking off at exactly the same time. And so I remember getting WhatsApp messages from my family members, but I turned my phone off. They were coming through while we were watching the January 6th thing. And they were all kind of coming through and going, oh my God, have you seen what's going on in America? Like, sending me stuff from BBC News. And I was like, I literally, and I wasn't being dumb or argumentative. I was like, I've got no idea what you're talking about. Like, I literally just watched it live. Like, Trump is literally only just stopped speaking. Like, how are you telling me everybody who was at that rally is like 40-minute walk away while Trump is still talking? Like, how did he tell them to go and fight like hell an hour before he was even saying it? Like, it just, none of it makes, and it didn't matter that the timestamps didn't match up. And I kept getting like videos of like, look at what they're doing, and I was like, yeah, but like, these are the videos of all the stuff that I'm seeing. So like, what are you on? And so obviously it's because they're watching the BBC. Similarly, like, the minute the mainstream media was at that rally in Philadelphia, it was obvious they were going to do something, because when have they been to any other one? Also, every time they show up to any fucking protests, that it's been orchestrated. Back to false flags, they've heard chatter, and they're going to let something happen, or sometimes it is pre-orchestrated. But so the BBC have just been called out about completely splicing his speech together, getting rid of the fact that he said peacefully and patriotically. Let's not forget, they also deleted him from social media because he put out that video of him saying, we need to stop this. And it was around 6 o'clock in the evening, after kind of lots of things had already kicked off. And he was saying, you need to stop this. You need to leave the Capitol, go home, go peacefully. This is not who we are. We're the party of law and order. We don't do this. And then the minute he kind of posted that, he was nuked from social media. And then everybody got to run with, he didn't even condemn it, right? He didn't even condemn it. He didn't say anything against it. And I was like, he fucking did, but you deleted him from the internet. So bearing in mind, they are propping up an actual fucking ISIS executioner-based terrorist as an all-round good guy, and yet the guy who created the Abraham Accords, who's been pushing for peace across the entire world, is the Nazi terrorist dictator, right? So for anybody who can do any kind of critical thinking, you can literally see the complete absurdity of the BBC as a news organisation. So the chair, I apologise, it was an error of judgment, so they've resigned, right? And Trump's called the BBC corrupt, and everybody has an issue with him calling it corrupt, not the fact that they purposely doctored this information. And he was then like, they fucking tried to say that he was overthrowing the government. Like, they were trying to get him put in prison based on the information that was coming from organizations like the BBC. And the BBC is spinning it like it was a mistake. You cannot accidentally cut out huge portions of fucking material. Like, I have to do video editing for my reel. It takes fucking forever. Like, it genuinely takes forever. They would have watched it, they would have edited it, they would have watched it again, it will have had editorial approval, it will have also been through the army of fucking lawyers at the BBC before they were allowed to air it, which means it's not a mistake by one person who was putting the documentary together, same as when they propped up fucking Hamas, pretended that they were like poor people. That will have also gone through the BBC's lawyers. This is something that people are not discussing. Like, the BBC is not citizen journalists. They're not people. It's not like me, who's just like reading information and kind of coming up with some crazy conclusions. Anything they say must go through the lawyers before they say it. This is why they don't talk about some stuff. It's because they don't have, and they call it editorial approval. They don't have lawful approval to do it. Either they've had D notices slapped on them, or the lawyers are saying it's a fucking touchy subject. And I know this firsthand because of being a whistleblower twice. And being told that the things I'm saying, they are not approved to say. Like, I literally was told that with regards to one of the things around Lucy Allen, is that they have been to the lawyers, the BBC lawyers are saying, we can't put that in the article. We can't run that on the news. Because the Conservative Party are saying that that's not true. Right. And their lawyers are saying that they'll threaten us. So it's like, okay, so the fact that I have evidence and proof to prove what I'm saying is factually correct, but because the Conservative Party lawyers are saying it's not true, your lawyers are now saying, because the Conservative Party is saying it's not true, that you're not going to do it. So facts don't matter. What the lawyers say matter. And the lawyers at the BBC will have said that is okay to do that. This is the fucking scandal. Right? These are the things that nobody's talking about. Everybody's like, oh, the BBC's corrupt. They were authorized to do it. It's not a mistake. It is a carefully constructed narrative that was done by the BBC specifically because they are designed to be, they are propped up as this truthful organization. Now let's now talk about the funding from the BBC, which comes from the UK taxpayer, which has it is allowed to exist because of the UK based parliament, which means the 2022 government, which was a Conservative government, authorized this happening. Because the BBC only gets their money if they do what they're told, right? So everybody's saying, oh, they're really biased, they're really lefty. They're fucking told to be like that, right? Because otherwise the government slaps a D notice on them and says, you can't talk about that shit. Like, everybody's, it's just something else that baffles me, right? Everybody just thinks because in this day and age I can take to my phone and I can report the news, this is what's going on behind the scenes in the big organizations. And just so you know, GB News is the same, Fox News is the same, OAN News is the same. Any actual news organization, which is an organization, will have an army of fucking lawyers, and the lawyers will decide what they're talking about and what they're not talking about, and their stance. They're not independent. They're not. So with the BBC obviously calling Trump the psycho, because we're talking about Syria, we're talking about the regime change, and hopefully that's all going to start kind of tumbling as well. So Israel tumbling, Syria tumbling, MI6, MI5, NGOs, all of that tumbling. I was just intrigued to find out what the BBC has said about the actual terrorist. A BBC exclusive from December 2024, Syria is not a threat. So we've just instilled, because obviously we funded it, like we funded it, we organized it, like MI6 CIA. We've just instilled a El Nusra. What am I saying? El Nusra. I've forgotten how to say it now. Well, that was silly. Where is it? Oh, it's because I scrolled too far down. Al Nusra, and ISIS executioner as the person in charge of Syria. And it's not a threat. Trump in the White House is my back. They do like cutting the feed, don't they? So the fucking terrorist in charge of Syria is not a threat, but Trump is a threat to democracy, threat to the world, Nazi psychopath who is going to destroy everything. So despite the facts speaking very differently, this is the shit that the BBC spin. Then obviously in America, they still haven't got rid of the Smith-Mundt, but they still haven't kind of rectified that whole Smith-Mundt Act, which stopped propaganda that then Obama allowed. So all that shit spins. So the BBC do something and it spins through Fox and CNN and NBC or whatever it's called. And then it spins it back again through Reuters and through the BBC and through the Telegraph and through the Guardian. And then they spin it back into that's literally how they do it. So one supposedly legitimate organization will run a story and everybody else runs off the back of that story, and that's what legitimizes it. And then you'll find them circle jerking and being like, oh, but they said it, and you find out it's all fucking come through the supposed leak, and somebody's just slipped them, this is what you have to say, because the lawyers have authorized it, right? You have to have that in the back of your mind. It's but also it's stressful. It's only stressful when you look at it, right? But it's frustrating that people can't see it. I think that's the thing that upsets me the most. Okay, so we're going to move on to Young Bob. So Young Bob is a 17-year-old guy who is a citizen journalist for Turning Point UK, which is not linked to Turning Point USA. They are two separate entities. And also, he also does some stuff for... There's another organization. I can't remember who else he does it for. Anyway, so he's called @YoungBob TP UK on X. So he does street theology clashes, and he so basically on the 6th of November outside Aston Villa's Trinity Road stand, there was a pro-Palestine an Islamist activist gathering, which swelled to around 200 to 300 waving flags, chanting anti-Israel slogans. So this is at the inside the stadium is the Tel Aviv versus Aston Villa football match, right? And so outside, we have 200 to 300 people chanting anti-Israel slogans, platforming speakers on Islamic resistance. So they have, and just so you know, in Birmingham, there has been like stabbings. There was like 2 people were stabbed, 1 person died. There was a woman who was stabbed in the neck, and this has all happened in the last few days, right? After this, I don't know what happened. I don't know if anything happened there, but that's happened after this. So Birmingham, for context, is like 36 miles south of me. It's really kind of easy to get to. Lots of the grooming, the women young girls, who were groomed, were shipped to Birmingham. And remember, Birmingham doesn't have Birmingham doesn't have a grooming gang problem, but everybody was fucking shipped there, the same as people were shipped into London, and London doesn't have a grooming gang problem. So there was 200 to 300 extremists outside the football stadium, and young Bob rocked up with his microphone. Actually, he was invited to go and speak and have this conversation. So there was an imam who spotted Bob, invited him on stage for a proper discussion. So he was invited over and into the crowd. Bob's got balls. That should be his new name. He accepted. There's a video. It's about 15 minutes long. It literally shows you the entire thing, start to finish, him getting invited on stage, having a conversation, and then getting fucking arrested for it. So it was civil, but kind of it was there was a clash of ideologies. Bob's a Christian. I love the fact that he's called Bob. So it's like, be like Bob, aren't they? The whole stick man. Or in this case, don't be like Bob, because don't get arrested. So he was, just having a civil conversation that was getting heated, obviously, because it's about faith, and we've got cognitive dissonance going on. We've got people, we've got the peer groups, we've got like already charged atmosphere. Bob calls Islam a false religion for bastardizing the Old and New Testament prophets. He says that he condemns insults to Christ, but again, he was still polite. He's quite a very he's a very well-spoken young lad. So he's not he was wearing a fucking suit, for God's sakes. It's not like he rocked up in fucking chav gear. For people outside of the UK, chav gear is like tracky bottoms, trainers, hoods up, looking like a thug, right? So he didn't rock up looking like a football hooligan. He was wearing a suit, he had a microphone, he's well spoken, and these people start, circling, right? This is why I said, like, Bob's got big balls, right? They start to circle, and the police do kind of start to kind of be like, okay, this is getting a bit hairy. However, right before that point, a guy assaults Bob mid question. And another then goes and IDs him falsely to police, right? So the other side are agitating and causing conflict and going and becoming aggressive towards Bob. Bob is not the aggressor in this situation at all whatsoever. He's just trying to have a conversation, as he was invited to do. West Midlands police roll in, hone in on Bob, right? They do not disperse the crowd. They've allowed anti-Israel protesting, chanting, probably saying disgusting things like from the river to the sea, death to Israelis, like all of that shit has been allowed to go on. But Bob, the peaceful journalist, because he's a citizen journalist, is the one that the police hone in on. So they move him away from the crowd and they stick him to the side. And then they slap him with a Section 35 Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014 dispersal order, right? So they're making Bob disperse from the hostile situation, not the fucking hostile people. They make Bob, they give Bob the dispersal order, and they're banning him from a 2-kilometer radius. And this is where Bob starts to go, well, I'm not going to comply, because he's got a hotel booked and his hotel is booked inside the 2-kilometer radius. So he would not be allowed to go to his hotel for 24 hours, right? If he complied with that dispersal order, he can't go into his hotel room. He can't, like, where's he supposed to fucking go? Like, that was ludicrous. So he was on the side and he was like, okay, well, it's fine. I'll just stay here. I won't go back to the crowd. I'll stay here. And they were like, no, you need to, we're giving you this Section 35 from Villa Park all the way up to New Street Station. I don't know whether it included New Street Station, because that would be really silly if it did, because most people use New Street to get out of Birmingham. It's like the main station in and out of Birmingham. There's other stations, but the main one in is New Street. It's where all the shops and everything are. But his hotel's inside that 2-kilometer cordon. So because he refuses, they then arrest him for breach of the peace. They literally cuff him and throw him into a van. And in the back, I mean, there is free Bob chants, but there's still the fucking horrific stuff going on in the background by the people, by the mob. Like, the actual mob are being horrific, and poor Bob is being carted off into a police van. So, the activists are complaining and are planning to sue for wrongful arrests. Obviously, Tommy Robinson's chimed in. The left are saying that he's an Islamophobe and he broke the law. He was provoking them. Bearing in mind, the imam invited him on to speak, to have this conversation. The only way we stop the cycle of violence and hate is by having conversations with people who believe something different. So do I believe the imam was trying to do that? No, I believe the imam was probably was attempting to stoke make it worse, right? Because of who the imam had surrounded himself with, right? Because he wouldn't have been there unless he was in that same mindset that, Islam is the one true religion and everybody should submit, which is what Islam means. Islam means submit. It does not mean peace. It means submit. And you either submit or you die. And if you're female, you get raped, tortured, and brutalized before you die, right? That's especially if you're white, and especially if you're white with blonde hair. So he was released. He didn't have to stay overnight. He was I don't think he had to stay for overnight. Let me double check. Okay, so breach of the peace is not a crime. So it's a common law preventative power. It lets anybody, not just police, anybody can intervene to stop a harm under the breach of the peace. So we can do it, right? If we see things getting heated between a group of individuals, we have the right, we have the lawful power, and this is why they try to get rid of all of the common law stuff, we have the authority to go and intervene. If it's an indictable offence, then obviously we can arrest, we can detain, we can, as long as you've got reasonable grounds for suspicion. So even though we aren't going to get a warrant, we would have to have the reasonable grounds of suspicion that a crime had been committed, or with regards to breach of the peace, it is going to cause conflict. The entire thing is about de-escalation, right? So it's not a crime and you can't get charged for breach of the police. You just get removed from the situation. So the arrest, if there's an imminent threat, it has to be like, this is about to kick off, we need to stop this. Once the risk has faded, that you must be released. So that's why once he was away and detained for a little bit, and then probably after the football match and everybody dispersed, he's free to go about his business. That's the point. So the definition, so I've got some kind of little bits to go into. The definition, so it's an act or threat harming a person or property in their presence or likely to, includes alarm or distress via violent disorder, but it must tie to an offence, right? Speech is, it must foresee harm. So you can say whatever you like, but if they believe what you're saying is going to cause harm, then they can say no, right? So this is why, I think we should just all go rounding up all the Muslims who are praying in the street, because that causes offense to me against my religion and my culture. The same way they do it to the Christian pastors, right? So the boomerang is, once they do it, then we have the power to do it back. So we have the lawful right in this country to question, and being offended is not a crime. And that's in law. The opportunity to practice religion is protected. It absolutely should be protected. However, we are allowed to talk about it and we are allowed to challenge it, and that is also protected. So he was invited, so they had consented to hearing his point of view. They knew who he was invited, they knew he was Christian, so they invited him into his space. He didn't go up there, he didn't go in there to kind of start all this shit. He was invited in. Yes, the threat of harm to him was there. And obviously they moved him because they couldn't move the 200, 300 people, right? So this is really important contextually. There was only 200 to 300 people being kind of volatile, and the police were unable to do anything about it. It doesn't take thousands. It just takes a small portion of people, which is why they are so effective at being so violent with a small number of people, because our police force is tiny. So the powers that the police have to arrest and detain, to prevent, so Section 35 dispersals at all, bans from the area for 48 hours maximum. They have to warn, and any person can arrest, but obviously the police will dominate. So Section 35 on suspected breach, valid if proportionate, and they are saying it was his refusal that then made him be arrested under Section 35. So who gets arrested? Instigator versus reactors. So the one causing the breach, or likely causing the breach, is the one they focus on. So because it was Bob who was stressing them out, he then becomes the instigator, despite the fact that he's the one who was invited up there. Because the whole point of the powers is to de-escalate, it's easier to remove Bob than it is to go against the crowd and start a riot, like a worse threat, right? They would riot. Now, this isn't right, the fact that they removed the peaceful person, because the other side will kick off and riot. And this is what's happening with the pastors, right? They are peaceful. The police know that they can move them on and not trigger a fucking full-blown riot. But they know they can't do that with the Muslims in the streets. They know that they can't do that with the Muslims who are complaining to the police to get the pastor to move, because somebody will have made a complaint in order for the police to come out. They have to have reasonable suspicion that a crime is being committed, or in this case, is likely to cause an offence to occur. Right? So they're preventing that to happen. So somebody will have contacted the police for all of these pastors and preachers and all of those things. So case law, Fulks versus Merseyside, 1998, means that there has to be a real present threat to a non-unlawful person. So Bob's speech was legal, which is Hicks versus Met 2027. His speech was legal. He's lawfully allowed to do it, but there was a real present threat because of his speech, right? So the Hicks versus Met 2017 means it's okay to do preventative in short bursts until the threat is over, because it's preventing a more serious threat. Obviously, this feeds into the two-tier narrative, because which is what Tommy chimed in. Ignoring the fact that the law states the job is to de-escalate. The law states it's about preventing a threat and ensuring there is not increased harm, right? So arresting the Muslims would not have had the same outcome. So do I like it? No. Do I think the police probably made the right decision? I think they were heavy-handed, and they didn't need to go straight away to breach of the peace. They could have just had a quiet conversation with him and said, look, we understand they invited you. We're concerned because of the volatile nature of the crowd, and we've been watching, and we are concerned that if this continues, there's going to be some escalation. So while you have a lawful right to do what you do, we are urging you to probably just step back and allow things to just chill out, relax. Maybe you want to speak to them later. Who knows? Maybe you want to speak to a smaller group, but we would just urging you to kind of do that. And say to him, look, if we see it become even more charged, we will be charging with a breach of the peace, because at the moment you're the spark. Like, they're all fine together doing horrific things, but your conversation is the thing that is causing the ruckus, whether it's intentional or not, whether you were invited on or not. The unexpected consequence, or I say unexpected, the consequence of this conversation is they are not having the same kind of spirit that you and this guy maybe are, right? That's what I think they should have done first. They were heavy-handed in their approach, and to then not understand that he then couldn't go back to his hotel. He was quite happy to stay away. So he said, okay, well, I'll just stay away. I'll stay over here. I won't go and talk to them. But because the policeman had said, I'm doing X, Y, Z, the policeman just doubled down. That's what happened. The policeman didn't want to look like a fucking dickhead, supposedly. I'm presuming that's what was going on in his mind. So then he doubled down And now he looks like more of a fucking dickhead. Power tripped. He just power tripped and panicked, probably. Power tripped and panicked. Also, bear in mind, the police at football matches are paid by the football stadium. They're not paid by the taxpayer. That's private. They are privately contracted police at those events. They are not publicly funded police at those events. So dispersing and removing 200, 300 ticket holders is not good business. They have a duty to protect the business and ensure the profitability of the organization, not necessarily members of the public when they are doing football matches. So we also have to remember that the police will be acting in a very different capacity at those events. Similarly, with when we saw all of the, people being beaten at the COVID protests, those police were probably hired rather than the actual police, right? So you're getting different policing. So you talk about two-tier policing. One is is when they're privately funded versus when they're publicly funded. So this is where they did wrong. So so here we've got proportionality and necessity. So they must use minimal force and alternatives first. So just like I was saying that, so I think they were heavy-handed, but actually it's kind of written in that they should advise a voluntary move first, especially in situations like that. They can be detained, but it must be as short as possible until the threat is disappeared. They have to go to court if they're kept overnight. Can be £100. You can pay £100 or go to jail. And it ties into Article 5 of the European Court of Human Rights and compliancy, but it's not arbitrary. Okay. So supposedly they tried dispersal. They didn't, from what I saw. Well, they didn't. They moved him, and as soon as they got to the side, the policeman said, "I'm charging you with the Section 35." Like straight away, they absolutely skipped the kind of voluntary move, and then. Sorry, they moved him away, saying you're breaching the peace. So they went straight to the breach of the peace. Then he said, and putting with dispersal, and he says, "Well, I can't because of my hotel," and he was just refusing because of his hotel. And then they bungled him into the van. So lawfully, what they did was correct. However, I would suggest that they didn't follow it to the letter because they didn't actually use they skipped the first bit. So the entire thing is about keeping the police, not arresting people. And you don't keep the peace by then riling up the other side who you've decided to, the peaceful side you're moving, who are maybe causing conflict. You don't keep the peace by then turning them violent, right? So they kind of went against the entire thing. So we have to remember that he is a citizen journalist. Now he has he was there was an Essex protest in September. He kind of came to a bit of conflict then, so the police obviously had him tagged. So under the Human Rights Act, which Farage wants to get rid of, let's just throw that in there. Let's remember ECH, European Court of Human Rights, the European Human Rights Act first, and then Human Rights Act second. That's what they want to get rid of. So he is protected under Article 10, freedom of expression. So am I, including gathering, sharing of information, Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, so PACE, no arbitrary detention for lawful activity. So he was lawfully there, and so they can't detain him for lawfully being there. So this is where this comes under really shaky ground, because he wasn't just a member of the public, just like having an argument. He was invited on stage, knowing his views, to have a conversation as a journalist, right? So this is very shaky ground that they're on. Rebel News, that's the other person he's with. So in 2023, the High Court ruled smartphone reporters do class as press if their intention is news gathering. If your pure intention is news gathering, regardless of whether you have press credentials or not, you are covered and you are classed as a citizen journalist. So citizen journalists don't need badges. You don't need like credentials. If you've got your smartphone and you are there getting news gathering, i.e. if you are watching some fucking horrific event go down or the police being dodgy as fuck, you are then a citizen journalist yourself, right? Because you're gathering news. This needs to be reported. This is not what's supposed to be going on. So you can literally pass the buck round. Like you the news potato. So that's from 2023. Hey Linda. Yes, they are not educated enough in the law at all. They are not. So we also have to remember, so yes, we've got the personality types, but we also have to remember that as soon as we feel threatened, our brain, the way that our brain works changes. We stop having the capacity to think long term, make good decisions, to take actions that actually lead to a peaceful resolution. It's very difficult. So your frontal lobe, the key driver, the thing that makes humans is put on a back burner. It's still there, but it's kind of like the quiet little whisper. And the thing that overrides you is safety and survival. And when we're in safety and survival mode, we're driven by fear. And the only things we can do is actually increase the fear. So we also have that going on. And if somebody happens to have a propensity for power, I mean, it's just a shitstorm waiting to happen. So this police officer, if you look at his demeanor, like he was in fear. Like he went into fear and he went into overdrive. I would probably say that he's probably a really nice person who just like, he did not come across as, he wasn't a bully boy, because it kind of started amicable and then it just kind of shit happened. And that's what happens. Like it takes 90 seconds, by the way. It doesn't take a long time. It takes 90 seconds for your survival mechanism to kick in. And then like your brain stops working. And if you don't do things like meditating, journaling, EFT, all those things that clears out your emotional trauma, of which police see all the time, is that you are going to go straight into that fear mode, and then you're going to be stuck there for about 6 hours, minimum of 6 hours. If something else threatens you in that time, you're already at half capacity, so you're already at a heightened state. And so that's what happens. Like if you watch let me drop the video. If you watch the video, and bearing in mind the brain stuff, right? So this is why I fucking love psychology, but it's not the be all or end all, and there's lots of bullshit in there, but actually, like when you really start to look at people and how people react in situations, you stop looking at like that person's an evil person. I mean, there are some sick and twisted people, but normal people do bad things and make really bad decisions, and it's not forethought. Right. And again, this feeds into why I don't believe under 18s should be charged as adults. Right. Because adults behave in this really unhinged way when they feel threatened. So the best way to explain it to all of you is if you drive, right, this is the easiest way to do it. If you drive and you have a passenger who criticizes your driving, how do you feel? Like uncontrollably, rage comes over you, right? Even if you're trying hard not to, right? Even if you do journaling EFT, it's because you're being threatened. Like that is a direct threat to you. You are not good enough. You are not worthy. You, like, all of that shit that you've probably ever grown up with that's in there is instantly triggered. Like, I love my mum, and I have to take her to and from the airport, and the minute we get in, I just 5 minutes later, I want to open the car door and just roll her out. Right? This is how it is. So that's what happened in that situation. Is the passenger chimed in. So he doubled down. And once he'd made that commitment, then you go harder at that commitment, because to not do so means that you made a rash decision, which further threatens who you are, and you're going to look stupid, and so this is going to decrease your status, right? So again, so he ended up in this fucking loop, and we also then have the them and others, right? So more psychology comes into this, because we have the police have to band together, because now the police concept is being threatened by a jumped up 17-year-old fucking journalist who knew his rights by saying, what authority do you have to do this? Like, why am I being detained? Like, what the fuck's all this about, right? So now the very institution is being threatened. So we have the them and we have the other, we have us and them. So it's gone from protecting this guy and potentially sparking fucking a riot to we're now being threatened. The police are, the institution is, for the act that this guy took. So it's very quickly, this entire thing just escalated. And the most... I'll be saying that 17-year-olds shouldn't be charged as adults. The most cognitively put together individual was young Bob, right? The adults with young Bob started to get heated. The adults on the police side started to get heated. And I think it's because of young Bob. That will be his personality. Right? He is somebody who's not quick to anger, as they say, right? So he's obviously had a very, very good upbringing to be 17 and be able to have be in that child situation and maintain composed. Now, I managed to do something very similar when I was going toe to toe with the policeman in Aldi in 2020 at the height of the fucking COVID fear. But the way that I did it was because the guy was just fed up, and I was treating him like a child, right? And it took 10 minutes before I was just like, I've just had enough of this conversation. But when it comes to my mum, 90 seconds, done. Right? So it can be a lot easier when you are not emotionally connected to the individual. Your family will always be the people that wind you up, right? Because there's like decades of history usually. But so Bob did very well. But yes, so they aren't educated enough. Panic kicked in, and remember, it takes 90 seconds for panic to kick in. So it started out, they moved him, but then by the time they'd got to the side, it was like a completely different conversation was happening. And because Bob said no, he's already in a heightened state. It's going to get worse, it's going to get worse. That was the inevitable outcome. Maybe, I mean, you get like body language ghost, don't you? Maybe I can do psychology ghost of how situations are flaring up because of what's going on in the brain in the background. And you've just seen me do it off the cuff live, so there we go. here's me giving myself even more work. Maybe somebody else can do that. No, yeah, let's not find something else for you to do, Katie. At present, where you literally have 3 hours to yourself a week, if that. Okay, so anyway, discretion is king. So West Midlands Police cited his history as a reason. So they were already, before they've gone and de-escalated the situation, they will have done a background check, right? So they have preempted. This is it's not naughty, but this will have fed into their reasoning, but also fed into the fear, because what they do will be publicly scrutinized, which is going to be, I say it's got to be, I don't care if I'm publicly scrutinized, but I've done a lot of work on myself. I don't care what anybody else thinks, right? I genuinely couldn't give two shits what somebody else thinks of me. They're not me. Okay, sometimes I care what Matt thinks. Like I say, well, I care about Matt. Sometimes sometimes I'm just like, I don't care, right? If you think I'm being a cunt, then that's on you. It's fine. So if you are somebody who hasn't done a hell of a lot of work on yourself, then that's also going to feed in, right? So you've got that fear in the back of your mind with public scrutiny, right? So public scrutiny, this guy's kind of like caused a ruckus before. We need to de-escalate. So they made the right decision moving Bob. They just didn't do it in the right way. But he's 17 as well. So to do this without a legal guardian present, that seems... I mean, sure. I mean, they must be able to arrest without a legal guardian present, because otherwise a 16-year-old can do crazy shit. We must have had... I don't know how that all works when it's somebody who's under 18, because it just seems a bit dodgy. But here we go. So it is iffy. So the Youth Justice and Criminal Evidence Act 1999 bars scare tactics on kids. So he has a strong wrongful arrest claim with damages up to 5,000 if proven disproportionate. So going back to the fact that he's 17, he's staying in a hotel, and they were going to tell him he wasn't allowed to go to his hotel. So they basically evicted a 17-year-old boy. That is dodgy. Like, that is really fucking dodgy. Making a 17-year-old not have somewhere safe to retire to when they are not in, when they're outside of where they live. Yeah. So Tana Adleman, who's Tommy Robinson's free speech go-to, is the one who is prepping the complaint and suit, arguing Article 10 breach. I think they need to go breach of the Youth Justice and Criminal Evidence Act, right? I think forget Article... And the reason why I'm saying forget Article 10 is because not all of the Human Rights Act articles are ones which are non-negotiables. Article 10 it's a nice to have. It's one that they can shut down at times of national security. It's ones that can be overridden when threat to life. So this is why Article 10 is a really stupid one to do if he wants to win, because the police can counter. Actually, like, they'd already, like, the 200 to 300 people who were already fucking kicking off, like, we moved him and then he resisted arrest. So the police have got a good case if they go with Article 10, right? So this will be more fake lawsuits. This is what we're going to see, in my opinion. If they go breached youth justice, breached the structure of the way that you breach of the peace. Like, they are clear evidence-based violations of those two laws, which can't be overridden, right? They're not ones that are going to get swept to the side. They are this. You must do this. Yeah. So what I wanted to know was whether had mainstream media journalists. Oh, thanks, Edwin. I'm off. Like birthday. So everyone's like, what are you shouting? Thanks for birthday. Thanks. So I'm off Friday afternoon, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. So I will be just ready for Monday's show on Monday, probably. I'll probably do a bit of work on Saturday, to be fair. But I'm have Sunday, just chilling. Okay, so MSM journalists, have they ever been detained? Yes, but they tend to get off. So get apologies and quick payouts. Well, Bob got an overnight hold. And just to put it into context, right, I was arrested and charged and went to court. And this is for drink driving when I was young. I wasn't like drunk. I mean, it's just to kind of clarify what happened. I went out for a meal. Where we went, like the food that came to the other tables looked disgusting. I'd already had like a large glass of wine, and back then I was a size 6. And then I drove because we were driving somewhere else to eat. And when I was breathalyzed, I was like barely over. I mean, like barely over. So I got taken to court. Obviously, I got like everybody. I was like going, oh my God, I was arrested. They were like, well, what was you, whatever it was in the breath? And they were like, oh, I was like 3 times that last week. I was let off. Like everybody I spoke to was like, oh yeah, been let off. Oh, don't worry about it. So I went to court and I got the maximum fine, maximum ban. I got like literally the book thrown at me. I chose to go to the you go to that fucking where you get taught about alcohol thing, so that I went from 18-month ban to 12-month ban. And I didn't have a duty solicitor. The reason why I didn't have a duty solicitor is the duty solicitor saw my case and went like, oh yeah, you'll go in, and they'll be like, there's no reason for you to be here. And he said, you'll be in there 5 minutes. And the duty solicitor said, I've got somebody who's just been done for 100-mile-an-hour speeding. Right, I need to get him off. So I got maximum thrown at me, like conviction, the lot. The guy who was driving 100 mile an hour down the motorway got let off, right, because he got the solicitor, right? So even the duty solicitor said, I do not even know why you're in court for this. This is just like ludicrous. This is a waste of fucking time, money, and effort. When I went to the fucking thing where you learn about alcohol, the woman police officer, she had everybody's kind of records. She came over to me and the guy sat next to me. She goes, I do not even understand why you were arrested, why you were fucking hauled up into court, or why you're here. The guy next to me, I mean, I thought I had it bad. The guy next to me, he'd used a fucking alcohol-based mouthwash. And what we both found out on that course is, one, if you use an alcohol-based mouthwash, you declare it. They have to wait 20 minutes before they breathalyze you. So I was breathalyzed at the side of the road, taken to Mallinsgate, which is 5 minutes down the road, and breathalyzed again. And I'd not long finished drinking alcohol. So there was alcohol in my mouth, not necessarily in there, right? So both of those breathalyzer tests were unlawful. Right. And had I been a criminal mastermind, I'd have known that, and I'd have like clock watched and told them to do it at the right time. Right. Anyway, So I was released, right? I was released after 2 hours. A taxi came and got me and took me home because I didn't need to be there overnight. And the fucking custody sergeant was just like, I don't even know why you're here. As it transpires, the police officer that stopped us went to school with Matt and didn't like Matt. And I was the one driving. Like, got us to wind down the window, saw Matt, fucking dragged me out. That's why I was arrested, because of Matt. Anyway, so I had, but I wasn't even overnighted. He was overnighted. This is where they've seriously fucked up. This is vastly disproportionate. So if you are a citizen journalist, right, or an MSS journalist, you can be arrested. Like, so BOTP, so breach of the peace, really, really rare for pure reporting, but it can bleed into terrorism, Schedule 7 for suspicion, aggravated trespass for proximity, but elites will get detained and citizens will get arrested. So, because I was like, has it happened? So Richard Medhurst, independent Syrian British covering Gaza, August 15th, 2024, he was yanked off Heathrow plane, arrested under the Terrorism Act, Section 12, and BOTP was in there, held for 24 hours. His devices were seized on no charges. CPS sent the file in May 2025, but it was dropped. There was no conviction. It was a political persecution. Sarah Wilkinson, MENA, Uncentered, again talking about anti-Gaza war. August 2024, raided, detained at home under the Terrorism Act for Palestinian resistance. I mean, but bearing in mind, journalists, MSN journalists are often spies. So there may be more to this than what we know, but there will be deals under the table, right? So let's just frame the journalists as spies thing as well. Questioned for 6 to 7 hours, accused of propaganda, probably was. Released, Labour government backlash, but her indie status meant no big apology. Devices were returned fast. Tom, a freelance Channel 4 contributor, I don't know who the rest of Tom's name, 2024 Hertfordshire protest, arrested at an eco protest for implication, so foreknowledge. He knew it was going to happen. Held for 14 hours, home raided, gear seized. Breach of the peace was adjacent. Police admitted unlawful arrest, human rights breach, compensated. Maximum was 10k, but undisclosed. But it was Channel 4, right? So Channel 4 forced the review, forced it to happen. Guy Solomon, a veteran photojournalist for the UK Press Syndication, June 25th, 2024, he was arrested for aggravated trespass on a public footpath. Interesting. Covering Sunak adjacent eco protest, detained for hours, charges dropped. NUJ hounded them at police into tactics review, and he walked with an apology. Matt Broomfield, freelance Guardian contributor, was arrested August 2023, held 5 hours at Luton under the Terrorism Act, Section 7. Links to Syria was what they did it. Reporting, no arrest, but he was grilled. And the NUJ, I think that's the National Union of Journalists, demanded justification. Everything was returned, no charges, framed as error, not malice. So, so the establishment get onto the National Union of Journalists. 70% of the journalist detentions end in release within 4 hours, 40% for citizen journalists. Bob had an overnight in September, and then Oh, no, it was in for hours in November. My apologies. No fast tracked. So I asked Grok, okay, so bearing in mind all of this shizzle that we've been kind of uncovering together, what should we do, right? So, and I kind of like pre-framed it, said, and I know you're not a lawyer, and I know you're going to tell me that disclaimer. And he literally just put, I'm not a lawyer, and this isn't formal advice. Okay. So current advice, minimize risk, maximize records, evidence-based edging, right? Yeah, we need an evidence-based document to de-escalate. That's what we're going to do. So prep your journo shield pre-event. So he's saying get accredited. So applying for UK Press Card Authority. If you're freelancing, it is free. It proves intent. So Bob could have done this via Rebel News rather than he was there reporting on TP UK. You could join the National Union of Journalists for £15 a month. Does cover citizen journalists. I'm not doing either of those things, by the way. I don't need to be part of a union for my rights to be protected. I think if we join these press cards and if we join these unions, what you do is you counter prove that you have no rights to do it unless you join these things. So I wouldn't, but if you want to go out there and get in the thick of it, maybe you want to. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You've got freedom of choice, but I'm not going to. So you kind of say I'm filming for, so do make sure you've got a channel, right? So I could probably go out there now and do some like in the street report. I'm not going to. Maybe I will. Maybe somebody will win the lottery and give me a few thousand, and I'll go out there and kind of do it, do some interviews, bust some psyops as we go, see whether we can get into MI5, MI6. Maybe we can go to Kew Garden. I don't know whether you're allowed in with a camera to Kew Gardens. It would be interesting to go and document some of the stuff there that has been uncovered and reported in books years ago, like decades ago, which has now been everyone saying, oh, well, that's not really what it says, right? That's what they do. They say that's not really what it says, and so you can't counter that because you haven't been allowed to see it. So tell a trusted contact your route and time. So legal aids, so there's a legal aid app. So you can say I'm going and tag yourself in a protest. So I mean, you shouldn't have to fucking do this to not get arrested. Yeah. Yeah, and there are stupid right garbage as well, to be fair. We do have agent provocateurs, as they say, but yes, this is some Hamas rats are getting murked. I mean, I hope you don't think I'm a leftist. It was that aimed at me. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Topping gas bottom. Okay, so know and assert your rights on site real time. Okay, so film everything, and obviously we've got that 2023 court saying that if you've got a mobile phone when you're filming, you are classed as a citizen journalist in UK law. So there we go. You don't even have to say I'm a citizen journalist. It's just there. Public spaces, fair game. If you're approached, stay calm. I'm a journalist filming lawfully. Under what power are you going to kind of like charge me for a breach of the peace? So a breach of the peace needs imminent specifics, and we then need to demand details for PACE code C, right? So maybe we like make a little card That's what we need. That's what you need in your purse. So the police come towards you and you say, 1 second, just go to consult my instructions, and we can go, we can read it off, right? That's what I got everybody to do under COVID. I said, look, just get your letter out. Remember I created that letter for you not wearing a mask, not having to get vaccinated in order to go into a hospital. I never used mine. Nobody ever demanded my letter. Maybe I've just got that look when I just said no. I just gave him the look. But it gave you the letter, right? So you could just hand it over. Maybe we do that. We just get little cards. So under what power? Demand details per PACE code C. Don't resist physically. No comment to every question, right? So when I used to watch the cop shows, I was like, oh my God, this guy's such a fucking prick, shouting no comment. That's what you need to do. Any question, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment. I would piss them right off. And don't be drawn into it. Do not be drawn into the conversations. Just no comment it. And when you get a non-useless duty solicitor, I'm quite lucky, I guess, because Matt's really good friends with a very good solicitor who actually does quite a lot of youth crime stuff. I'm sure he could be persuaded. Katie's been arrested again. Can you come? I mean, last time it was all kind of like everyone just didn't think I was going to be arrested, that nothing was going to happen, right? So, but maybe I'll be like, can you just ring? Funny story, that solicitor employs Telford's MP, or used to employ Telford's MP. Anyway, so, and I mean, he's a lefty. Maybe he's not anymore, right? I would say lots of people fucking aren't anymore. But he's a good guy. So film everything. Don't resist physically. No comment questions. Request the duty solicitor. You get a free one 24/7, and there's a phone number for us. So here we go. For Bob, invoke youth justice. A parent or guardian must be present. So I knew there was a kind of parent or guardian hook, right? So fine to be arrested, but we can't be interviewed. So de-escalate proactively. So echo Bob's win. This is consensual. They invited me. He did. Step back if tension spikes. If there's a dispersal order, they're saying comply verbally. Obviously for him, like, where the fuck was he going to go? Was he just going to go stand 2 kilometers out, like, for the next 48 hours before he can kind of do anything? Note the time and location for any challenges. Avoid debates with police. And it says focus on exercising your Article 10 rights. But again, that can be overridden. National security, terrorism, threat to life, like that can be overridden, right? So that can be a backup, but don't use it as the kind of be all and end all. So document and backup. So triple record, phone, cloud upload, body cam, if possible. If detained, memorize badge numbers, demand reasons in writing. Post-release, file a complaint with the police force's professional standards. It's an online form, so it's really easy to do, 28 days. Make sure you contact the IOPC if they breach rights. And I kind of tagged the IOPC in the video on X. You could sue for wrongful arrest, false imprisonment. You've got 6 years to do that, between 3 and 20K. So, I mean, maybe I do get out. Maybe I don't need the lottery. Maybe I get out there and start asking some questions and then start suing the police as a job. You know, once a month, 3K. Coming your way, that's a pretty decent wage. Obviously I've now got intent, so I can't do that, and I'm not going to go purposely get myself arrested. So the law is on our side. If Bob's crew crowdfund. It could be a landmark case. So they definitely need to do it, and they need to get away from fucking Toby Robinson's Article 10 push. They need to go down youth justice. They need to go down the other routes. Is what I believe. So moving into the last but definitely not least subject, we are going to go into how we can kind of, you know, emotionally protect ourselves. But first, we're going to launch into something else, you know, controversial as usual. So 11/11 isn't calling you home, it's chaining you to the wheel. Sunday spike. Proof the harvest is on, right? That is going to make sense. So yesterday was Remembrance Sunday, and I did do a post because I do believe in honouring those who have served with honour, honouring those who serve with honour. That's like honour lots of times. My apologies. I used to, on the Remembrance Sunday, I used to go to the National Arboretum. I used to do the entire thing, but COVID kind of shut it down and I haven't been back. And I know I used to do it as like my birthday outing, and I know that seems really weird for everybody, but it was an opportunity to go and be patriotic, and I really enjoyed it. we'd have cake and coffee and tea, and it was like I used to like drag my family to the Remembrance Sunday stuff. So I mean, we used to go as kids. That wasn't me dragging people. We used to go as kids. And then it just kind of like, I enjoyed the kind of tradition, I guess. But I haven't been since COVID. So we'll put it in my diary to go. I just forgot. This year, I completely forgot. I forgot it was my birthday until I was like, oh, I need to... Like, it's just on the calendar, right? That's what happens in my household. Anyway, so 11/11 is peddled as this master number, and I've spoken about 11s and 1s and all of that before, right? 1 being the male ejaculation energy. It's like the spark. 0 is the feminine creation energy. That's the universe is a circle. 0, it's the 1 and 0, 10 is creation. Anyway, so we've done that before. We're kind of veering down a slightly different path this evening. So 11/11 is pushed as like this master number because it's like, and all duplicates and triplicates and quadruplets are supposedly like, you take the 1 and it's amplified, and 1 is manifestation, but 1 isn't manifestation. 1 is just, I mean, the only way to discuss this is, oh no, we'll talk about fireworks instead of ejaculation. Right, a firework. The firework goes off and it goes out, right? So it's just like random energy. It's non-directed energy. So when you have 11, it drops down to 2, which is duality, awakening. But this is 4. Right. So when you use Pythagoras's theorem, you get 4. You don't get 1, 1, 1 unless, and so there's people will say, oh, when it's a repeating number, it doesn't, like, you don't reduce it. Right. The rule is 1 to 9, and 0 is kind of like the beginning and the end. Right, the alpha and omega, the never ending, the never ending creation cycle, and everything else happens inside it. So the rule is everything's reduced. The rule isn't, because it's Pythagoras' theorem. He didn't say except if it's repeating. Right, that's you can't take somebody's rule and the entire thing that it kind of stems off, mathematical rule, and actually that actually feeds into toroidal fields, which is energy fields. You don't get an energy field with a random 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That's not, it's 1 to 9, and then the actual energy field's 0, right? And if you go and look at, it's not called toroidal mathematics. Can't remember the name, but it's 1 to 9, so which means the 1s have to be reduced. absolutely have to be reduced, which means it's 4, right? And 4 is the earthly plane, right? So that's a square, that's Earth. And it's material creation. So it's squares, it's rigid, and it's fear-based. So what we have on Remembrance Sunday and tomorrow is, the 11th, is we have 24 hours of 2-minute spikes in energy, fear-based spikes in energy. One, because it's 11, 11, 11, that's tomorrow, but we still do it at the 11th hour, right? So we still do it at 11 o'clock. So you're still getting it. It's still like wound up in it. So you have 24 hours of people focused on loss and grief, and everybody in the UK, I say everybody nowadays, I would say probably not everybody, because we have lots of people ignorant of our culture who expect us to adopt their culture. But people in the UK who are patriotic individuals will be focused those 2 minutes on loss. So what you're doing is you are feeding the energy beasts, right? In the same way as the Roman amphitheaters were feeding blood, fear, anger, aggression, all those evil, awful things is what you are sticking into the earth, because it's just energy. It's just an energy exchange. This is physics. This is quantum physics, not woo-woo. It's an energy exchange. So we also have poppies, which everybody says, oh, it's because of, Flounders Field, the poem, because they grew. They're red, right? The red poppy. Why the red poppy? Because it represents the blood. So we wear a blood sacrifice, a emblem of blood sacrifice on our chest near our hearts, right? Then we focus on pain, fear, and anger. Right? If that's not a satanic ritual that everybody partook in, I don't know what is. Here's where things get really fucking freaky, right? Yesterday, so the 9th of November, there was, and obviously we've got the BBC propaganda machine amplifying it worldwide, right? So it's not even just, it's not UK. It's like lots of people take part in remembrance parades and all of that. It's across the Commonwealth. So it's a big portion of the global population partaking in this. On the 9th of November, the Schumann resonance went feral. According to Grok, it went feral. I was like, wait, what? Power surged to 26 theta dream states, and there was a 9-hour blackout. So there was a complete energetic flatline, right? And I'm going to show you this because this is insane. This is what happened. This is the 9th. And so this is different time, right? So UK time, like we're in here. Well, like it's in here is while we're all fucking doing the remembrance parade. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you could only see a teeny tiny version. Why is it doing weird stuff? Oh, I don't know. Sorry. Like this black section. Oh, we've got this huge influx of like love bombing here, this white stuff. So there's, just so you know, there's multiple Schumann resonances. Along the top, so this along the top is the main heartbeat. That's the 7.83 hertz, which is because this is like the hertz of the scale. You also have another one, so you can see it better on the second half. You see this stripe across. That's another one, and then you can see another light line, like another stripe. So those kind of like horizontal stripes are the other kind of resonant frequencies that kind of are all kind of humming in the background. It's just the 7 to 8 hertz, which is known as the heartbeat. Is the main bass line, is because it's the strongest, but there's actual multiple ones. So we have one. People say it's alpha. It isn't alpha. It starts at 8, by the way. So we have one at theta. So that is our dream state. That's that one. So 7 to 8 hertz feeds our kind of theta state. So when we are, so it's part of our deep sleep state, when we are in the meditative state. So we're alpha first thing in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, you're a little bit groggy. Those first 17 seconds are alpha. Children are in alpha, and once they kind of hit puberty, the brain kind of like undergoes a frequency upgrade and goes into beta. And we do slip in and out of alpha throughout the day, and we have these blips of inspiration. That's because your mind's just kind of blipped into alpha. But then if you're meditating and or doing hypnosis, the best state for understanding stuff and kind of like reflecting on stuff and tuning into the collective consciousness is theta. So that's why it's 7 to 8 hertz. And if you want to do telepathy with somebody, the best state for both you and them to get into in your mind is 7.83 hertz, because then you're riding on the energetic superhighway. And again, all of this is quantum physics and it's called psychology now, but it's like paranormal psychology, but it's all proven. And actually paranormal psychology is more proven than the aspirin, the effects of aspirin. And they hand aspirin out like fucking sweets. Anyway, so we had this fucking big blackout, which is crazy. At the same time, there was a 1.7x solar flare, right? Which resonated at 7.35. Oh no, which happened at 7. Wait a minute. There was a 1.7 solar flare, which happened at 7.35 UTC. That's one of the American times. But so when you have a solar flare that hits the ionosphere, which is where the ions are, rattles the fuck out of them. They shoot down to Earth, right? Look, this is what that big fucking white blobby gloopy thing is. So we get a mass influx of ions, positively charges the Earth, and you get like shitloads of lightning strikes. 90% of them are above the clouds, and that's what kind of shoots the ions down, is the lightning strikes, and so that charges the Earth. And this is why grounding's like, this is why the science behind grounding is you are literally sucking up the Earth's ions, right? So then you can charge your body. It's like it's a battery. That's what the Earth is. It's a literal battery. And Tesla, when he was talking about free energy, he was talking about tapping into the ionosphere. HAARP shoots shit into the ionosphere, and then miles away the weather changes, right? So this is again, it's science, it's physics. So what would have happened was a theta overload, which rather than leading to transcendence and relax and rejuvenation, which comes from meditation, you end up with dissociation. So people going fucking batshit crazy. Because it's just too much. We can't fucking cope with it. So we're going to have to deal with that all over again tomorrow. How do I stop this? Pressing that button. Cool. So tomorrow we will have 11 o'clock on the 11th hour, 11th day, right? But tomorrow is 11. So now we've stepped out of just 4 on Sunday into 6. And that is materialistic manifestation. That is 100% service to self, not service to others. And service to self is the bad energy, right? That's the negative harvest energy. So the entire there was a reason why they did it at 11 o'clock, and I keep saying this, but we've never really kind of gone into it. So hopefully now you'll be like, oh yeah, Kate said that like years ago. Now I get it. Now I get why she's not just nuts. I mean, a little bit, but who knows? So we've now moved into material manifestation, which is 6. So the mark of the beast is 666. That man is also the same number, 666. What's 666? It's carbon. So it's carbon and diamonds. And they make human diamonds, don't they? So it's 6 is the number of material manifestation. So that's when you are creating in the material world. So what are they fucking creating? Not good stuff. So tomorrow at 11 o'clock, all the people who are focused on their last loved ones, because the vast majority of people who still kind of do the Remembrance Day stuff are those in the military who have lost loved ones or know people who've lost loved ones. They are not in the happy, healthy state. They are in the negative grieving state. Like, this is purposeful to fuel negative energy and feed negative energy into the earth, to trigger all those people who do not have control of their cognitive faculties to do stupid shit. And with regards to solar flares, like, people, like, there's an escalation in suicides during solar flares, right? That, like, legit trackable escalation in suicide. Anybody who's got MS, you will have a flare up, and then you will have another flare up 9 months later. If you are male and you're bipolar, you will cycle. So what we saw yesterday was any males with bipolar, which, I mean, I don't technically agree with as a diagnosis, but you know, we are where we are, will cycle. So we got manic bipolar, suicidal increase, causes that much pain in somebody with MS. They will have a flare up even if they were in remission, which triggers biological functioning while we're feeding negative energy into the earth, of which we are still kind of like sucking up, even if we're not stood flat ground. It's just like far more effective and it works faster. That's what we're involved in. And like I said, I've been like fucking going as a family ritual for years. But I usually use it as an opportunity to give thanks for all those people and to be grateful for the people who care about looking after us. So I've never kind of used it as a loss, but I haven't been on the receiving end of I mean, I didn't even lose my nan until 5 years ago. So I that was my first close relative, if you like, and that was like late 30s. So I'm very blessed in that sense in my life. Okay, so we're about to rock into 6. Here's what we can do. Okay, so we can do some deep breathing. So 4-7-8 pranayama breathing down regulates the vagus nerve. Okay, so it reduces cortisol in your body, which will spike by 23%. So it help you tune back into the zero, the energy, the good feeling, the love, back into the energetic void rather than feeding the earth full of bad stuff. So at 10 to 10, inhale, inhale, hold, and then exhale. So we're inhaling for 4, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8. Do it a few times and focus on how grateful you are and honoring those who've come before, right? So we are tuning into the love, not the fear of the event. After the event, during the silence, we're going to kind of break the feedback. So just focus on the good stuff, right, through it. Service to others, right? Grateful for your support, opportunity to be alive now, to carry on the legacy, like all of those type thoughts, like big yourself up energetically. You can, if you find it hard to turn off the kind of negative chatter in your mind, you can stare at yourself in the mirror. And I know some of you are going to be like, I'm not fucking staring at myself in the mirror. That's fine. Grab a photo of somebody you love, preferably somebody alive, right? Because we don't want to be triggering guilt. Focus on 3 things you like about the person, the way that they help you. It's about and how they've helped feed into the good stuff, right? So if you can't do it in your head, I mean, you can even journal beforehand and focus on tuning back into what you journaled earlier in the morning, good stuff. You can absolutely ground beforehand, give yourself a jolt of ions. You can... So it'll help you tune into the 7832 baseline, right? The kind of the Earth's resonance. And for those of you who don't know much about human resonance, if you are underground in a concrete box, that you will start to go crazy because you're not tuned into the Earth's heartbeat, right? It makes you it makes us not actually legit makes us crazy. So go tune in. Barefoot walk before 11, or you can hold hematite. If it's raining, that's better. The wetter, the better. It increases the speed of ions. And actually, I mean, so standing in mud is great. But if you want to take a walk along the streets, streets in your bare feet in the rain, go for it, because the coarseness will... it increases the blood flow, and so you increase even more. So it's just like it's better for you. So wet cobblestones is the best for grounding. After that, you want to go mud, not grass. After that, you want to go grass. So you want to reduce the resistance as best as possible. And while you're there, make sure you're affirming. You can also do a bit of cheating and have some 5 to 8 hertz music kind of buzzing in the background, because that stimulates DNA repair. That is the love hormone boosting frequency. You can also roll on some essential oils that are also going to raise your frequency. So the more your energy is raised, the less likely you are to get the kind of emotional ramification or kickbacks. So tomorrow is not a surrender to the global caliphate that the Islamists want, or to the negative energy feedback loop that the cabal have been doing for 107 years. 107 years they've been doing this fucking psyop. We can tune in to the energy of the 6. It doesn't have to be negative energy. Right? You can manifest the things that you want faster because you're in the energy of the 6. What you manifest will be determined by how you feel. I urge you to tune into love over those 2 minutes so that at least what you're manifesting is love, right? Everybody else's journey is not up to you. It's just what you are creating. Excuse me. So, very left field with today's how we can protect self. But again, grounded in science, all these things feed into what makes us happy, healthy humans. The more we tune into love, the more our frontal lobe works, the more we are the less likely we are to get trapped in fear and behave very unfortunately like that police officer did, or to skip and miss all of the amazing things that are happening, i.e. the BBC getting called out. Fucking big. And the reason why this is big is because everybody who watches the BBC will have been forced to see that all of their conspiracy mates and black sheep of the family were right about January 6th and right about the fact that that's not what Trump said, right? So the BBC has forced everybody to see that. I can't wait for Trump to sue them. Please sue them into oblivion. And still, just while we're on the BBC, their 2016 constitution still hasn't been ratified in Parliament. I can't find any ratification in the Hansard notes post 2016. It's on the statute books. So it's on, gov.uk, on legislate.gov.uk. It's there. But there's not been it's not been kind of ratified in Parliament. So in my personal opinion, the BBC was long gone. And it's just they have to show us. They can't tell us. And that feeds into all of the shit we see with the New York mayor. People are going to see what communism's like. Everybody wants to be part of communism until it happens to them. So have yourselves an amazing week. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And stay safe, enjoy the ride, and stay true to you. See you next time. Bye for now. I don't even know how to stop it. They've changed things. Wait. I genuinely don't know how to stop it now. Well, this is awkward. Like, the button up the top's no longer there. So just right about now would be handy for you to cut the feed. Literally, wait a minute, maybe I need to make it bigger. No. Oh no, I can't. Oh, there we go.